The Underground Railroad Society of Cass County, URSCC. The mission of URSCC is to provide a focal point for exploration into the origins and activities of the Underground Railroad, the unique role the people of Cass County and the surrounding area played throughout its existence, and how it impacted local, state, and national history. Our goals are to preserve and restore the James E. Bonine House and Carriage House as outstanding examples of Victorian domestic architecture, to create an education and community event center in the Bonine House as the focal point for understanding the role local Quaker, African American, and other abolitionists played in the Underground Railroad, to restore the Bonine Carriage House as a period museum and station on the Underground Railroad, to preserve and restore the Stephen and Hannah Bogue House as an Underground Railroad station, and preserve and restore the 1840s one-room Brownsville School No. 1, integrated the day it opened until it closed in 1957, perhaps the first integrated public school. In restoring these buildings, URSCC hopes to create a cultural tourism destination for Underground Railroad enthusiasts that will bring visitors and tourism dollars into the community. The Underground Railroad. Chattel slavery, which means outright owning a person and their descendants, began in the United States in the mid-1600s and ended with the passage of the 13th Amendment to the Constitution after the Civil War in 1865. Before 1808, when it became illegal to import slaves, over 12 million Africans were brought to the Americas, an estimated 650,000 to what is now the United States. However, the business of buying and selling slaves continued within this country, and by 1860, there were over 4 million slaves in the U.S. The overwhelming majority of slaves and slaveholders were in the South. Within the heart of every slave was the urge to be free. Many did try to escape, only to be returned and severely punished under the 1793 Fugitive Slave Act, which said slave owners had the right to recover their property anywhere in the United States. However, by 1850, it's estimated that 50,000 to 100,000 fugitive slaves, now called freedom seekers, had escaped from southern slave states, mostly along the border, to free states in the north. Most traveled on to Canada, a free country since 1834. Other routes went to the southern coast, to Caribbean islands, Mexico, and the lawless West. The Underground Railroad operated in the northern free states primarily from 1845 to 1860, and greatly increased the chances for escape. It was not underground at all. Rather, it was a network of stations, homes, carriage houses, and barns, owned by Quakers and other abolitionists, as well as free black men and women and other sympathizers. To avoid being seen, freedom seekers traveled at night, alone or in small groups, covering 10 to 20 miles, either on foot or hidden in wagons, and were given refuge at these safe locations during daylight hours. Those who took the freedom seekers to the next station were called conductors, and those who sheltered, fed, and clothed them were called station masters. Cass County and the Underground Railroad. Quakers are a religious group that opposed slavery, calling it a sin against God and man. Quaker Levi Coffin of Wayne County, Indiana, is called the president of the Underground Railroad. He and his wife Catherine helped over 2,000 slaves to find freedom in Canada. Quaker families from southern slave states migrated to Wayne County to escape the hated institution of slavery. They came north to Cass County, Michigan in the 1830s and 40s, settling in Penn, Calvin, and Porter townships. They formed the Young's Prairie Anti-Slavery Friends Meeting in 1843, adding stations to the Quaker line of the Underground Railroad and creating a refuge for freedom seekers from all over the South, especially the border state of Kentucky. According to early Cass County histories, the homes of Quakers Stephen Bogue, Zachariah Shugart, Josiah Osborne, and Ishmael Lee were Underground Railroad stations of much importance. The Stephen Bogue house still stands at M60 and Crooked Creek Road. Quaker abolitionist William Jones' house at M60 and Guards Prairie Road is also a noted Underground Railroad station, as is the Carriage House, built by James E. Bonine at M60 and Calvin Center Road. It's claimed that over 1,500 freedom seekers passed through Cass County on their way to Canada on a route through Schoolcraft, Battle Creek, Jackson, Ann Arbor, Detroit, and finally Windsor. Cass County Underground Railroad conductors were Zachariah Shugart and African-American Henry Shepard. Freedom seekers leaving Vandalia were escorted to the home of Dr. Nathan and Pamela Thomas in Schoolcraft. Their home is restored and open to the public. From there, another conductor escorted them to the home of Erastus and Sarah Hussey in Battle Creek. There was so much Underground Railroad activity in the area around Vandalia that Henry Clay called it that hotbed of abolitionism on the floor of the U.S. Congress. African American churches played a significant role in the Underground Railroad. Chain Lake Baptist Church, formed in 1838, is one of the oldest African American churches in Michigan. Mount Zion AME was organized in 1849. Free black families who arrived in the mid-1840s include the Andersons, Stewarts, Wilsons, and Allens. They also formed an anti-slavery society and played pivotal roles in the Underground Railroad and the Kentucky Raid. Freedom seekers continued to arrive in Cass County, many going on to Canada on the Underground Railroad, but some staying in relative safety to work on Quaker-owned farms. Freedom seekers living in cabins on various Quaker farms were targets in the infamous Kentucky Raid of 1847. A settlement of about 30 cabins on 10-acre plots on property purchased by James E. Bonine in 1853 came to be called Ramptown, after a wild leek that grew in the area. In exchange for clearing the land, freedom seekers and free black families could earn money and send their children to school. When the arrangement ended, many purchased their own farms and prospered. The Kentucky Raid. Shown here is the mural titled Sanctuary and Deliverance in Cass County, painted on a wall in downtown Cassopolis. Frustrated with the constant loss of their property, Kentucky planters banded together in hopes of retrieving their slaves rumored to be living among the Quakers in Cass County. In August of 1847, a group of 13 Kentucky slave catchers broke into smaller parties and proceeded to various settlements, including the Bogue, East, Osborne, and Shugart farms, capturing 9 freedom seekers. Perry Sanford, shown here, was residing in one of the Stephen Bogue cabins when the raid occurred. His eyewitness account can be found on our website. Word of the kidnapping spread quickly, and a large group of people gathered to stop the Kentuckians, including Quakers, free blacks, and other townspeople. The crowd estimates are from 100 to 300. A confrontation ensued at Odell's Mill in Vandalia, and because they were outnumbered and believed the law was clearly on their side because of the Fugitive Slave Act of 1793, the Kentuckians agreed to go to court in Cassopolis. Sitting in for Cass Circuit Court Commissioner was the Berrien Commissioner, Ebenezer McIlvaine, a secret abolitionist and Underground Railroad conductor from Niles. Freedom seekers and other African Americans were allowed to bring charges and to testify against the slave catchers in court, unheard of at that time. McIlvaine found for the fugitives on a legal technicality. 9 fugitives and 30 other freedom seekers were all able to escape on the Underground Railroad, conducted by Zachariah Shugart and Henry Shepard. They were taken to the home of Dr. Nathan and Pamela Thomas in Schoolcraft. The Kentuckians went home empty-handed, but later sued in district court in Detroit. That case was settled and eventually dismissed, with the Kentuckians again receiving nothing for their trouble. The outcome of the Kentucky raid and the later trial in Detroit incensed Southern slaveholders. It added fuel to Southern demands for a more stringent fugitive slave law, which was passed in 1850, making it much more dangerous to be a freedom seeker or to harbor them. This law, authored by Henry Clay, became one of the primary factors that led to the Civil War. Even though much more dangerous, Cass County Quakers, free blacks, and other abolitionists continued to help freedom seekers find their way to freedom on the Underground Railroad. One historian says, "The story of the Underground Railroad in Cass County is one of cooperation, respect, and mutual trust to combat the hated institution of slavery. The interdependency of these groups created a unique environment that helped minimize racism, promote cooperation between the races, and create an African American community unique to the North." You can find much more information about Cass County and the Underground Railroad and URSCC on our website, urscc.org. You can download our 19-site Cass County Underground Railroad self-guided driving tour. You will also learn about our current capital projects. URSCC purchased the James E. Bonine House and Carriage House in December 2010 with the goal of restoring the Bonine House as a community events and Underground Railroad education center, and the Carriage House as a station on the Underground Railroad and period museum. We hope to complete these restorations by fall 2019. The Stephen and Hannah Bogue House was recently donated to URSCC. Visitors can go in the attic where freedom seekers were hidden. We plan to have the home open in July 2018. Brownsville School No. 1 in Calvin Township is an 1840s one-room schoolhouse where local black and white children studied together until it closed in 1957. It has been donated to URSCC and will be moved to a site next to the Bonine Carriage House. Restoring these iconic buildings and their legacy of freedom is a labor of love and a true community project. There are many ways you can help on these projects. Become a member of URSCC. Members are listed on the donor page of our website and receive discounts and invitations to special members-only events. You can pick up a brochure with membership information outside the Bonine House or at the Underground Railroad marker in Vandalia. You can also join and donate at urscc.org. Remember URSCC in your planned and charitable giving. A gift in memory of a loved one will create a lasting legacy. Legacy donors of $5,000 or more will have a nameplate on the Bonine House tower steps. The Underground Railroad Society of Cass County has an endowment fund at Michigan Gateway Community Foundation in Buchanan, Michigan. You can donate to the restoration of these buildings for free by shopping on Amazon Smile. It's the same site as Amazon. Register to support URSCC at smile.amazon.com, and they will donate 0.5% of everything you buy. These donations really add up, and we very much appreciate it. You can donate to our GoFundMe campaign on gofundme.com/Bonine Restoration. Any amount is greatly appreciated and may qualify for a charitable tax deduction. We need and appreciate your support. Tax-deductible donations can be sent to URSCC, P.O. Box 124, Vandalia, Michigan 49095, or you can donate online at urscc.org. Thank you very much.